My sister and I bought 2 merfolk at an auction. She chose the strong older one, leaving me to take the younger one with the broken tail. In order to heal him, I offered my heart's blood for 49 days. I even exhausted myself to upgrade his bloodline, until he awakened as the king of merfolk. But even though he married me, he remained consistently cold and distant. I thought that was just his nature, until my sister was gravely injured. He personally drained every drop of my heart's blood. He said coldly, if it weren't for you, she would have taken me with her. It was you who tore us apart. When I opened my eyes, I was back at the merfolk auction. Marrying a merman was a tradition in our family. A woman's honor and disgrace after marriage were entirely tied to the merman she married. So after being forced to choose the merman with the broken tail, that my sister had rejected, I barely saved him with 49 days of heart's blood. I risked my life to obtain all sorts of elixirs, to upgrade his bloodline. Fortunately, he eventually became the king of merfolk. As the wife of the Mer King, I should have lived a life of luxury and happiness. But unexpectedly, on the day my sister was injured, he kicked open my door, and once again cut open that hideous scar on my chest. Pei Wen, what are you doing? I cried out in pain. He only deepened the cut, trying to make the blood flow faster. Pei Wen swiftly tied my hands to the headboard. Yuan is seriously ill. She needs your heart's blood. But I have no heart's blood left to give. If you take more, I'll die. If it weren't for you, she would have taken me away. It was you who tore us apart. My breath hitched. Looking at the merman I had nurtured myself, my scalp went numb. So, pay for it with your life. After my heart's blood was drained, I lost consciousness. Before everything went black, the blue eyes looking at me were as vicious as if they were poisoned. Pei Wen had always been cold to me. I thought it was just his nature. Now I finally know that the one he loved was my sister. He hated me for choosing him back then. I didn't expect to open my eyes again and find myself back at the merfolk auction. I immediately saw Pei Wen shrinking at the very back. A merman's greatest pride is his tail. The other's tail shimmered in the water prison, moving like flowing silk. But Pei Wen's tail hardly had any scales left. My sister, Yuan, just like in my previous life, vaguely pointed at the 2 merfolk inside. Ing. Let's take those 2, okay? Make a decision quickly. Otherwise the strong ones will be bought by others. In my last life, I listened to her lies and agreed. Merfolk aren't cheap. I thought there was no way she would choose the weakest one among the group. But unexpectedly, she actually bought the dying Pei Wen. Because of that, father was furious. But Yuan told him, this is the one my sister chose. You know what her personality is like. I just had to pay for it. Anyway, I chose the strong one. I'm taking him first. And just like that, the pathetic Pei Wen fell into my hands. This time, I won't believe her lies. Sister, take him yourself. I want that one. I pointed to another expressionless merman and placed my bid without hesitation. To me, it didn't matter who I chose. If I could turn the helpless Pei Wen into a Mer King, then anyone I picked from this lot would be better than him. This time, I only want to choose someone loyal. Seeing that I didn't take the bait, Yuan criticized me with dissatisfaction. Yang, your bid is too high. Father only gave us this much money. If you use it all, what will I use? I looked at her coldly. How did I not notice how fake she was in my last life? Yuan tried so hard to push a worthless merman onto me, simply because she feared my future status would surpass hers. Her scheme began the moment we stepped into the auction house. I pointed to one of the cheaper ones in the middle. That one looks decent too. If you raise him well, maybe he can support you later. If you're really out of money, buy that one. Yuan laughed out of anger. She pointed at Pei Wen. Him? I wouldn't want him even if he filled my bed. I gave a mocking smile. Poor Pei Wen. In the last life, he thought I was the one who tore them apart, unaware that Yuan never thought much of him at all. Just like the last life, Yuan still chose her merman, Bai. As I left with my merman and you, Pei Wen, in the water prison, suddenly began to thrash violently against the glass walls. The people around started to mock him. Oh, is he trying to get attention? He's so broken and ragged. Only a fool would buy him. Seeing Pei Wen's obvious desperation, and Yuan looking back, I frowned slightly. Could it be that Pei Wen was also reborn? He's so restless. Likely because his beloved Yuan didn't take him away. Looking at his tattered blue fins, I smiled. The dream he fantasized about for a lifetime was suddenly shattered. That must not feel very good. Since I didn't bring Pei Wen back this time, I naturally didn't get scolded. And you stood before me, his tail twitching against the floor. Can you take human form? And you pursed his lips, and obediently retracted his tail. Unlike the others, on Enyu's face, I didn't seem to see the joy of being purchased. Looking closely, his blue eyes held a hint of indifference and arrogance, so I asked directly, do you not want to come home with me? And you looked at me coldly and said nothing. As far as I know, the merfolk in those water prisons are divided into ranks. If I hadn't brought you back, You would have had to keep fighting to maintain your status. Now, I can protect you. I'm not some weakling whose tail can be broken. At that one sentence, I laughed, and you was right. As a merman, to have one's tail beaten into such a state. What is that if not useless? If you don't want to stay here, you are free to leave. A glimmer of light flashed in Yu's blue eyes. I could tell he was tempted. Before he could act, I stood up first. What are you doing? Since you don't want to stay, I naturally have to go choose another merman. To train a mere king. I cannot tolerate someone with divided loyalty. From the corner of my eye, Yu looked at me in surprise. Becoming the mere king is every merman's lifelong dream. He has strength, but strength can be cultivated. An ungrateful wolf like Pei Wen is better left alone. The auction has ended now. Any family wealthy enough to buy a merman will have other channels to find one. For the next few days, I was busy from dawn to dusk. And you hadn't left yet. But I had to find a backup plan. Unexpectedly, as soon as I reached the street today, Pei Wen came running toward me, stumbling. In the middle of the street, he grabbed my leg. My lady, why didn't you take me with you? Please, take me away. The one you chose was clearly me. My heart skipped a beat. What did you say? Yang, look at me closely. Are you really not going to choose me? Hearing this, I was certain that Pei Wen had indeed been reborn. But why was the first thing he did after rebirth not to find my dear sister, Xin Yuan? I kicked him away expressionlessly. What nonsense are you talking? Which one is your master? Don't try to scam me in broad daylight. I tried to walk away. But Pei Wen chased after me, unwilling to let go. Just as I was about to lose my temper, I suddenly saw Yu following me. Not far behind. With a shift in my gaze, I crouched down and smiled at Pei Wen. Your tail. It's so badly injured. Were you bullied by the other mermen? Pei Wen was stunned, but then he started nodding. Out of the corner of my eye, Yu moved a bit closer. Just like in my previous life, I gently touched Pei Wen's tail. Having lived together day and night in the past, I was the one who healed all his wounds. I knew exactly where was comfortable and where was painful. So now, when I touched him, Pei Wen shivered with comfort. Master, can you take me home? I curled my lips. Of course, before I could finish. Yu rushed forward and used his tail to sweep Pei Wen away. Tossing him 5 meters back, he stood before me with a tense face. I haven't left yet. After being thrown, Pei Wen tried several times but couldn't get up. I feigned surprise and looked at Yu. How could you be so heavy-handed? Didn't you say you were leaving? Why stop me from finding another merman? Yu's fists at his sides tightened. I'm not leaving. I smiled with satisfaction. Mermen with independent wills need to be tamed. He had taken the first step, so I would naturally accept this olive branch. As for Pei Wen, he struggled to his feet and approached again. Master, you just said you'd take me with you. Sorry, I've changed my mind. Pei Wen opened his mouth to speak. One more step, and I'll break your remaining bones. Yu was indeed far more powerful than Pei Wen. To prevent another betrayal, I forced Yu to perform the blood-binding ritual. Can you really make me the Mare King? I didn't answer. As his master, I should have absolute authority. In the last life, I focused solely on making Pei Wen the Mare King, forgetting that strengthening myself was the most reliable path. If Yu performs well, the title of Mare King will naturally be his. But if he shows even a hint of betrayal, in this life, he will be nothing more than a toy for my bed. If you're unwilling, you're free to leave. I turned to leave after speaking. But I had barely taken a step out the door, when Yu cut his own tail and drew blood. After the ritual was complete, Yu stood beside me awkwardly. I am yours from now on. I smiled. Looking closely, a faint blush appeared on Yu's pale face. I gestured toward the bed with my chin, purposely teasing him to go there. Yu's face turned even redder. He slowly edged his way onto the bed. To avoid getting the bed dirty, he let his bleeding tail hang over the floor. What are you doing? Seeing his flushed face, I felt like laughing. So his previous ferocity was all an act. You should know that when we buy a merman, we are meant to wed them. Technically, you should be my husband now. You didn't say a word, but when I touched him, his tail gave a slight tremor. When our eyes met, he suddenly closed his eyes as if resigned to fate. I let out a soft laugh, and turned to get some medicine to stop the bleeding. While Yu's eyes were closed, I gently blew on his bleeding wound. Does it hurt? Yu's tail uncontrollably swayed back and forth slightly. This was a sign of pleasure for a merman. I helped Yu apply the medicine, then stood up and sat back in my chair. Don't let it touch water lately. It'll be fine in a couple of days. It doesn't hurt anymore, right? The blush on Yu's face hadn't faded. It's so ugly. It doesn't match my tail. Then why was he still wagging it? Once Yu's tail healed, we began our daily training. Unlike the last life, I also began to practice combat. A Mare King's wife shouldn't be defenseless. We hadn't been practicing for long. When Xin Yuan arrived with her merman, Ji Bai. Oh, sister, for the sake of sparring, you've really thrown yourself into it. You took so long to choose at the auction. I thought you'd pick someone extraordinary. But looking at him now, he's just average. Not even half as good as my Ji-bai. I stopped and looked at Xin Yuan and Ji-bai. Ji-bai's physique was indeed sturdy. But in the last life, he was nothing special. Plus, Xin Yuan didn't know how to train them. After they married, father handed the family management over to me. I didn't say a word, but you stepped in front of me. Ha ha ha. You, a mere merman, dare to challenge me? Let me tell you. I am the eldest daughter of this house. I will be the one in charge of this family. Ji-bai, give him a lesson he won't forget. Upon receiving the order, Ji-bai lunged forward and you remained calm. Even taking the time to move me to a safe spot. Before joining the fight. Good. I also wanted to see Yu's true strength. The two fought fiercely. But after just a few rounds, it was clear that Ji-bai was at a disadvantage. Xin Yuan, who was so confident at first, was now shouting anxiously from the sidelines. Kill him. Kill him. Why are you holding back? I'll back you up if you kill him. Ji-bai's reactions were unclear. But Yu started aiming for lethal blows. Seeing that Ji-bai's tail was about to be broken, Xin Yuan suddenly screamed. How dare you? Xin Yang. Is this how you raise your beast? He dares to treat my man like this. I laughed. Sister, didn't you just let Ji-bai start this trouble? You even yelled for Ji-bai to kill Yu. All the servants can testify to that. If Ji-bai is injured, I'll make sure father punishes you severely. If Ji-bai is injured, I'll make sure father punishes you severely. I spent a fortune on him. Let him go. Humph, I'm glad you know your place. The eldest sister is the eldest sister, no matter when it is. This house will never be yours to rule. After saying that, Xin Yuan left in a huff with Ji-bai. And Yu was brooding. I should have killed him just now. What's the rush? Since Xin Yuan has suffered a loss, she will surely hate me to the core. Whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. Xin Yuan began to find fault with me. At every turn, I thought she'd try to sabotage me in front of father. But unexpectedly, she brought Pei Wen into the house. To work as a servant. When Pei Wen stopped me to beg, I was startled. How did you get in here? Xin Yuan walked out from nearby with a smile. Bringing father with her. It seems the rumors outside are true. It seems the rumors outside are true. I was confused. What rumors? Father gave a cold snort with a stern face. Yang, you've already chosen a merman. Why are you still involved with this one? Fortunately, your sister ran into him today. To keep him quiet, we had to bring him home. Otherwise, your reputation would be ruined. Sister. He was asking everyone he met to get him into the Shen house. He wanted to be by your side. If I'd known, the two of you had something going on, I would have just bought him. Back at the auction. Why bother bringing this Yu home? The more Xin Yuan talked, the darker father's expression became. Yang, if you can't clean up this mess, then get out of this house. With that, father swept away in a rage. Xin Yuan looked at me with a beaming smile. Sister is so capable. Solve it slowly. Pei Wen knelt on the ground, looking up at me, with eyes full of pleading. You like me that much? Then you can stay. Instead of driving him out, it was better to keep him under my eye. Without my heart's blood in this life, whether Pei Wen could even survive was a question. Pei Wen began to hover around me all day. And you, however, stopped being close to me lately. When I caught him in the back garden, and you dodged me with a sour face. Why are you still looking for me? At this time, shouldn't you be with that pitiful Pei Wen? That scene on the street was all an act. Just to trick me into the blood-binding ritual. And you was puffing with anger. His tail slapping the ground restlessly. I looked at him with interest. You can't run away now that you've bound yourself. What will you do? Do you still want to be the Mare King? And you gave me a dull look. As if he thought I was lying to him. There's a Marefolk competition in 2 months. Whether you become Mare King is up to you. Seeing him silent, I had to give him a brief explanation. Really, there's nothing between me and that merman. I almost swore it. Only then did Yu give a proud huff, and start training with me. As we trained and sweated together in the garden, Pei Wen would pass by occasionally, pretending to be busy. I'll go break his tail. Let's see how he walks then. And you, I have my own plans. In the last life, for him, all that heart's blood can't be given in vain. Since he was so eager to deliver himself to my door, then he can't blame me for being ruthless. That night, I called Pei Wen to my room to serve me. The Mare King of my previous life was now actually kneeling at my feet, helping me with my foot bath, but because of his severe injuries, he would sway weakly every now and then. You look unwell, I asked nonchalantly. The annual Marefolk competition is just around the corner. Pei Wen must be worried sick right now. In the last life, with my help, he became the Mare King. Someone who has stood at the top, could never be content as a mere servant. So, even if it's for my heart's blood, he will definitely endure it for now. Pei Wen slumped weakly on the floor. My tail was injured in the water prison. And it still hasn't recovered. Oh? I feigned ignorance. Then I followed up by asking, so, how can you recover? We don't keep idlers in the Shen house, Pei Wen. He looked at me and spoke tentatively. I need human heart's blood for 49 days. To fully recover, I said nothing. Today, he was nothing but a servant. Seeing no reaction from me, he coughed twice and continued. I know I am useless. In this life, I only hope to stay by your side. I wouldn't dare dream of heart's blood. Why do you insist on staying by my side? Pei-wen stared at me intently, searching for any hint of a lie on my face. But I looked perfectly sincere. How could he see through me? Convinced I wasn't feigning ignorance, Pei-wen shook his head with a tragic air. It seems Yang really doesn't remember me. You once saved my life. Mermen have always known to repay kindness, which is why I insist on staying. Even if you are within you. As long as I see you live a peaceful life, I can die without regrets. I clenched my palms tight to suppress the urge to slap him. Repaying kindness? He was clearly ungrateful and heartless. He used my trust to bite me hard, yet spoke with such heartfelt sincerity. If I didn't have memories of my past life, I might have actually believed his nonsense. I pretended to be deeply moved by his selflessness. Only 49 days of heart's blood. And you can fully recover? Pei-wen's eyes lit up. His wolfish ambition was plain to see, but he was clearly trying his best to restrain it. Yes, but Yang, taking heart's blood is very painful. After a moment of silence, I said seriously, I can save your life. But once you're recovered, you must stop pestering me. A flash of hurt crossed Pei-wen's eyes. But he quickly agreed. Fine. He would never pester me. The moment I lowered my head, I smiled too. Was my heart's blood really that easy to get? Every day after that, I would have you go to the market to buy fresh chicken blood. Chicken blood diluted with water loses much of its smell. To keep him from noticing, I added some herbs into it. He had to see some results to believe me. Pei-wen drank bowl after bowl. Brows furrowed every time he drank. Yang, why does this heart's blood taste a bit strange? Yang, why does this heart's blood taste a bit strange? I immediately put on a hurt expression. Of course blood doesn't taste good. To save your life, I cut open my own chest. If you think it's unpleasant, I'll just throw it away. How would Pei-wen dare? He licked the bottom of the bowl clean. Yang, I will never forget your great kindness. If only I were the merman you chose. Then I could stay by your side to repay you. At his words, I immediately looked distressed. Allowing you to stay in the house is already a great burden for me. You heard what father and sister said that day. As I spoke, I watched him out of the corner of my eye. When Xingyuan was mentioned, there wasn't a trace of affection in his eyes. Instead, there was a hint of hatred. After my death in the previous life, I don't know what happened. But now it seems that he, the Mare King, didn't end up with a good outcome either. Sigh, but I can't blame you. My sister has always been at odds with me. She's just using your presence to humiliate me. Pei-wen's hand on the table clenched involuntarily. Seeing his gritted teeth, I knew I was right. Yang, don't worry. I won't become a burden to you. That would be for the best. But in this life, he isn't even worthy of being my burden. Lately, Pei-wen has been loitering less in front of me, and going to Xingyuan's side more often. I knew he took my words to heart. Using someone else to do my dirty work can be considered his atonement for the past life, to prevent Pei-wen from noticing anything. And you and I have been training. In the room at night. Faster. The merman on the field will be out for blood. If your speed isn't up to par, you might walk in and be carried out. With that, I beckoned to you. Come, I'll spar with you. And you smiled, clearly looking down on me. Come on, jump, Ingluo. And you was in front of me in a flash. So fast I didn't even see how he moved. How did you, before I could finish? And you launched another attack. After dodging twice, I lost my footing and fell backward. And you cried out. And reached out to catch my waist. I suspected he did it on purpose. Intentionally falling onto the bed with me. Pressed beneath him. My heart raced uncontrollably. And you, get up. It's late. You should go back. His blue eyes flickered. He pinned my hands above my head without a word. Why can Pei-wen come at night? But I can't. So he found out about Pei-wen coming for chicken blood every night. Pei-wen is here for business. He pressed down on me, refusing to budge. His hot breath fanned against my neck. His tail suddenly pulled down the bed curtains. He said, Master. You said it yourself. From now on, I am your husband. Until my legs were weak. And you was still whispering in my ear. Do you want him or me? I gave a nonsensical answer. But thought to myself, how is this damn merman's stamina so good? A month later, the tale of Xingyuan's merman suddenly broke. Xingyuan was like a madwoman at home. How did this happen out of nowhere? Ji-bai, did you eat something wrong? Where is your tail? Without a tail, how will you participate in the merfolk competition? Are you even a merman without a tail? Ji-bai lay on the bed, face deathly pale. Father, help me find someone to treat Ji-bai, please. The merfolk competition is almost here. I've invested so much effort into him. Father frowned and nodded. After the beast doctor arrived, he took the pulse, sighed, shook his head, and left. The tail looks fine on the outside, but the bone inside has softened. Within 3 days, his bone will turn into a pool of pus. Ji Bai frantically begged the doctor to save him, falling off the bed in his agitation. Xin Yuan muttered, impossible, with glazed eyes. After seeing the doctor out, Xin Yuan lunged at me to attack. But within you there. How could she even get close? Xin Yang, it was you, wasn't it? You were jealous of my merman's talent. Afraid he'd become Mer King? Because then you'd never be able to surpass me. So you harmed him on purpose. You ruined my merman. And I won't let you live in peace. Die. Father walked in just as she said this. Stop this nonsense. With father's roar, Xin Yuan went silent instantly. I calmly explained, sister. I have no reason to harm your merman. Setting aside who will eventually become Mer King. And you is significantly more powerful than Ji Bai. Ji Bai wasn't even a competitor. We considered. Why would I go to such trouble to harm him? Xin Yuan was about to scream again. But father snapped at her. Since it's come to this, stay home and rest. You don't need to participate in the competition. Deal with this useless merman yourself. Both Ji Bai and Xin Yuan panicked. For a merman with no tail, what chance of survival would he have if thrown out? And without her merman, Xin Yuan lost all her prospects. When Pei Wen came for chicken blood today, he was clearly in a good mood. He looked at me ingratiatingly. From now on, Xin Yuan won't be able to steal anything from Yang Yang. I handed him the chicken blood. He was almost through the full course of treatment. Recently, I had increased the dosage of the herbs. Pei Wen did look much better than before. But this was all superficial. The herbs could only sustain him. Once he overexerted himself, he would suffer a sudden acute illness. At that point, even drinking a full 100 days of heart's blood would be useless. That wasn't your doing, was it? I feigned surprise. And showed a hint of admiration. How did you make him turn like that? Without anyone noticing? When I asked, he acted mysterious. He only said, to repay you. I'd do anything for you. I turned away and sneered. He only knew so much. Because he was the Mer King in his past life. Although his body was far from what it was, he still knew those underhanded methods. After downing the blood, he greedily licked his lips. The tail behind him wagged. As if showing off. After he left. And you emerged from the shadows. He looked displeased. And a bit wary. Xin Yang, he's no good. Why help him? Staring at the blood-red bowl, I asked back meaningfully. How do you know I'm helping him? And you paused. I immediately followed up. The competition is in 3 days. Are you confident you'll be king? And you reached out and grabbed my hand resting on his tail. Since master is so eager, I'll win even if it costs me my life. His words made my face flush. I knew the abilities of those mermen. As long as he performed normally, and you would definitely be fine. On the day of the merfolk competition, father and Xin Yuan went with us. Since the day before, I hadn't seen Pei Wen at home. He must have come to compete too. And you. This competition concerns the Shen family's honor and status. You must give it your all. Do you hear me? Father urged in a low voice. Xin Yuan curled her lip disdainfully. But for once, she didn't say a word. I glanced at her subconsciously, feeling something was off. Right before he was to go on stage, Xin Yuan pulled out a handkerchief, wanting to wipe and use sweat. Xin Yuan pulled out a handkerchief, wanting to wipe and use sweat. Fortunately, and you never liked strangers getting close. He dodged immediately. Xin Yuan's hand was left hanging in the air, looking very awkward. Sister, look at the merman you raised. It was just to help him wipe his sweat. If he becomes Mer King, it brings us honor too, doesn't it? So stingy. Could she really be so kind? I gave a fake laugh, snatched the handkerchief, and wiped it on father's face. Ah, don't. Seeing Xin Yuan stammering, I was even more certain there was something wrong with it. So I wiped even harder. What's wrong? The competition is important. But father has been standing in the sun with us. It's hard on him. Wiping his sweat is my duty as a daughter. While speaking, I had already pushed you out. After 2 months of hard work, no one was going to mess things up now. Xin Yuan became restless. She kept stealing glances at father's reaction. Seeing him sway, I smiled. So it was a knockout drug. Father, what's wrong? Father held his head. Fine beads of sweat breaking out on his forehead. He was fine just now. How did he suddenly become like this after I wiped his sweat? I asked, and Xin Yuan immediately panicked. What nonsense are you talking? Father is just feeling unwell. What does it have to do with my handkerchief? Father was so dazed he couldn't speak. I looked at Xin Yuan with a smile and said, whether there's a problem, we'll know once we check it back home. Since the drug was used on father, I didn't believe he could remain indifferent. Xin Yuan's goal was simple. Since her own merman was hopeless, she didn't want Mai and you to compete. But she forgot. As long as it brings honor to the Shen family, father doesn't care who it is. Once the competition started, and you quickly made it to the final rounds, father was groggy. And Xin Yuan and I had no time for him. When she saw Pei Wen on the field, Xin Yuan's jaw dropped. His tail, wasn't it ruined? Isn't he a servant in our house? Why is he here? After asking, she seemed to realize the key point. If his tail could be healed, does that mean my Ji Bai has hope too? You did it, didn't you? How did you cure him? I tilted my head at her. Want to know? Use your heart's blood. To feed him daily. For 49 days. I told her the method quite seriously. But as soon as Xin Yuan heard about harming herself, her face changed instantly. For a merman? Haha, I'll just buy another one. But Xin Yang. You cured this Pei Wen. Just to see him fight your Yu? Xin Yuan looked at me as if I were a fool. I kept my eyes fixed on the stage without speaking. I had already warned Yu before coming. If he met Pei Wen on stage, beat him to death. I wouldn't let all that chicken blood and herbs go to waste. Pei Wen finally stood face to face with Yu. Yu cracked his knuckles. And charged in without a word. Pei Wen, who had seemed quite fierce against others just now, was suddenly weak and fragile. Yu lifted Pei Wen high up. And slammed him down hard. A blood-curdling scream pierced the air. I smiled. While Xin Yuan beside me stopped laughing. How can Yu be so powerful? He'd been on stage for less than the time it takes to drink tea, and Pei Wen already couldn't get up. I was still waiting for him to overexert himself. And spray blood everywhere. He used all his strength to barely stand up. But the first thing he did upon standing was to look for me in the crowd. I coldly looked away. That faint affectionate look was nauseating. Pei Wen let out a long roar, trying to summon all his strength, but just as he was preparing for a full force strike against Yu, he suddenly clutched his chest, and then spat out a mouthful of blood. Without Yu even needing to move, he collapsed to the ground. Sister, Yu won again. After several rounds, Yu's status as Mare King was solidified. Across the crowd, Yu and I looked at each other from afar. Xin Yuan looked like she was about to grind her teeth to dust. After returning home, Father's dizziness didn't fade until the next day. Upon learning Yu won and became Mare King, Father was incredibly excited. He said good 3 times. It seems that from now on I can safely leave the Xin family to you too. Before I could speak, Xin Yuan flared up. Father, I am the eldest daughter of the first wife. This house should be handed to me. It's only because my merman was sabotaged that we didn't get the title of Mare King. Father gave her a lukewarm scolding, intending to let the matter go. I pulled the handkerchief from my sleeve. Father, during Yu's match yesterday, Sister wanted to use this handkerchief to wipe his sweat. But there was a large amount of knockout drug in it. Even Father only woke up today. This involves the family's fate. Sister's intentions are truly malicious. Hearing this, Father instantly flew into a rage. Fortunately Yu dodged it. If he had used this thing, who knows which family would have taken the Mare King title. You've loved to compete with your sister since you were little. And I've always turned a blind eye. But now it seems the Xin family is indeed not suitable for you. Xin Yuan's eyes widened in shock. She seemed unable to believe that Father would actually say such a thing. Father, is it because Xin Yang's merman became Mare King that you've started fawning over her? Bastard. My father slapped her. Bastard. My father slapped her. Get back to your room. Xin Yuan, you are forbidden from keeping any more mermen. Xin Yuan was dragged out. That last sentence, did it count as cutting off all her paths? Without a merman, how could she compete with me? Yu's and my status in the house rose significantly. Late that night, Yu's tail was wagging restlessly. Fed up, I snapped, are you going to sleep or not? Yu flipped over onto me. His voice slightly raspy. After a long time, I couldn't help but ask him. When Pei Wen fell, what did you say to him? I heard Yu's soft chuckle in my ear. I told him that he'd been drinking chicken blood all along. When Pei Wen was carried back to the Shen house, his breath was faint. The blood on his chest clung to his broken scales. A rotting tail, the tail I had healed with 49 days of heart's blood in the past life, was now twisted into a bizarre, grotesque angle. He couldn't even manage a basic wag. The servants tossed him into a corner of the woodshed, too lazy to even spread a blanket for him. They only felt his half-dead appearance was an eyesore. I stood at the door of the woodshed, looking at Pei Wen curled on the cold floor. I nonchalantly toyed with the jade button on my sleeve. Yu stood by my side, his warm palm pressed against my lower back, as if afraid I'd be tainted by the stench of the scum, yet silently protecting me. Master, should we still keep him? Yu's voice was deep, carrying a hint of impatience. The blue light in his eyes was cold and sharp. Keeping him is just keeping a curse. I shook my head, pushed open the woodshed door, and walked slowly toward Pei Wen. Hearing the movement, he struggled to lift his head. His vacant gaze fell on me. First confusion, then a sudden explosion of intense hatred. That hatred was mixed with frustration and grievance. Like an abandoned child. Ugly and pathetic. Xin Yang, you lied to me. His voice was as raspy as a broken gong. Every word seemed squeezed from his throat, accompanied by bloody froth. That wasn't heart's blood. It was chicken blood. You've been lying to me from the start. I knelt down and looked at his miserable state, a faint smile playing on my lips. Pei Wen, why did you think that I would still treat you with such devotion as I did in my last life? In my last life, the 49 days of heart's blood I gave you to serve as your panacea, to help you ascend to the throne of the Mare King. What did I get in the end? You personally drained every drop of my blood. All for that Xin Yuan, who never even spared you a glance. I thought you were sincere with me. Pei Wen's eyes were rimmed with red. It wasn't because of sadness, but because of extreme rage. I thought Xin Yuan, she was just momentarily confused. Confused? I let out a cold laugh. Back at the auction, she pointed at you and said she wouldn't even want you to warm her bed. Have you forgotten? She brought you back to the Shin family merely to use you as a pawn to slander my reputation. Can you still not see through it even now? Pei Wen's body trembled violently, as if he couldn't believe my words, or perhaps as if I had struck his most painful spot. He opened his mouth wanting to say something but only coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood. Fresh blood stained the floor before him. In your last life, you became the Mare King, and enjoyed endless wealth and glory. But in the end, didn't you still end up being discarded by Xin Yuan? I continued to speak, every word piercing his heart. What do you think your deep affection for her looked like in her eyes? Nothing more than a joke. She only ever cared about her own status, about the power to rule the Shin family. You and Pei Wen were nothing more than her tools. The light in Pei Wen's eyes completely faded away, as his hatred was gradually replaced by despair. He lay on the floor, motionless, like a fish that had lost its life. I won't kill you. I stood up and looked down at him. Killing you would be too easy on you. I want you to stay alive. Watching as in you and I stand at the highest peak. Watching as Xin Yuan is left with nothing. Watching as you spend the rest of your life as a useless waste who can't even lift his own fish tail. That is the best punishment for you. After saying this, I turned to walk out of the woodshed. And you followed closely behind, closing the woodshed door behind him. Pei Wen's sorrow and resentment were completely locked inside. Returning to the courtyard, the moonlight was like water spilled on the ground, coating it in a layer of silver frost. And you embraced me from behind, resting his chin in the crook of my neck. His warm breath brushed against my skin, carrying a faint scent of seawater. It was the unique scent of a merman, making me feel incredibly at peace. Are you tired? His voice was gentle, a world away from the cold intensity he showed Pei Wen. Go back and rest. I leaned into his embrace and nodded. During these past days, from choosing a new merman, to taming in you, and then to plotting against Xin Yuan and Pei Wen, I was indeed tired, but my heart was exceptionally light, as if the stone that had weighed on my heart for years had finally been lifted. In my last life, I was too weak, too infatuated. I always thought sincerity could be exchanged for sincerity, never expecting the wickedness of the human heart ending up with a tragic death. In this life, I am no longer the second miss of the Shin family who can be easily manipulated. I have in you. I have my own strength, and I have the confidence to protect myself. I will never let anyone bully me again. Back in the room, and you poured a cup of hot tea for me. His fingers lightly brushed over my cheek, as if to soothe me. I looked at his handsome features, at the deep, inseparable tenderness in his eyes, and my heart stirred. I reached out and held his hand. And you? Thank you, I whispered. If it weren't for him, I might have taken many more detours in this life, perhaps still being plotted against by Pei Wen and Xin Yuan. And you tightened his grip on my fingers, rubbing his thumb against my palm. His eyes held a hint of a smile. What are you saying, master? I am your merman. Protecting you is my duty. Moreover, the reason I want to protect you is never just because of duty, but because it is what I desire. His words were direct, making my heart skip a beat. I looked up at him, staring into his deep blue eyes. There was only my reflection in them, clear and steady. In my last life, I had never felt such tenderness. Pei Wen's eyes always held only Xin Yuan. But in this life, in Yu's eyes, there has only ever been me. As the night deepened, the sound of insects outside gradually faded, leaving only the sound of our breathing. And you pulled me into his arms, his fish tail lightly wrapping around my legs. It felt cool, yet gave me immense warmth. Days passed by. After Yu became the Mare King, his status was exalted. Even the elders of the Merfolk tribe were respectful to him. Because of Yu, the Shin family's status in the city rose significantly. Father valued me more and more, handing over almost all the Shin family's affairs for me to manage. As for Xin Yuan, ever since she was grounded by father, and stripped of her right to keep mermen, she had become quite mad. She was locked in her own courtyard, shouting at the empty room all day long. One moment she'd scream, I am the eldest daughter, the Shin family is mine. The next moment she'd cry, Pei Wen, come back quickly, I'll find the best doctor for you. She looked wretched and pathetic. Occasionally, I'd send servants to check on her, merely wanting to confirm that she no longer had the ability to cause trouble. The servant returned and reported that Xin Yuan's courtyard was overgrown with weeds. She was disheveled all day long, too lazy even to eat. She had become incredibly thin. Long lost was her glory as the eldest daughter of the first wife. I only nodded faintly after hearing this, feeling not even a shred of sympathy. All of this was her own choice. She envied me, and ending up like this after plotting against me. was entirely her own doing. As for Pei Wen, he was locked in the woodshed, surviving only on a bowl of cold porridge a day. His health was deteriorating rapidly. The wound on his fish tail, having received no proper treatment, had begun to fester and rot, emitting a foul stench. The servants found him filthy, and couldn't even be bothered to bring him water. He could only lie on the floor, licking the puddles of stagnant water, like a stray dog. Once, I walked past the woodshed, and heard a faint cry for help from within. I had a servant open the door, and saw Pei Wen lying on the floor, reaching out toward me, with a sliver of plea in his eyes. "Xinyang, I beg you, give me some medicine. I beg you." His voice was weak, almost inaudible. I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Looking at him in such a state, my heart remained completely unmoved. Wrong? I raised an eyebrow. Where were you wrong? Was it that you shouldn't have drained my heart's blood? Or that you shouldn't have been blind to Xin Yuan's true nature? Or perhaps, that you shouldn't have come to bother me again in this life? Pei Wen's hand froze in midair, his lips trembling. Yet he couldn't speak a complete sentence. "You weren't wrong. You were just too stupid. Too selfish," I said coldly. "You only ever cared about your own feelings. You never truly loved anyone. Your so-called deep affection for Xin Yuan was nothing more than your own wishful thinking. Your exploitation of me was merely a means for you to achieve your goals. A person like you doesn't deserve my sympathy, much less my help." Having said that, I had the servant close the woodshed door, never sparing him another glance. A few more days passed, and the merfolk tribe sent someone to the Shen house, inviting in you and me to Mare Island, to attend the coronation of the Mare King. Mare Island was the ancestral land of the merfolk, and their sacred ground. Only the king of the merfolk was eligible to hold a coronation ceremony there. As the wife of the Mare King, I would naturally go with him. Upon learning this, father was overjoyed. He personally prepared lavish congratulatory gifts for us and repeatedly exhorted us to maintain a good relationship with the merfolk tribe, to secure more benefits for the Shen family. And you and I packed our bags, ready to depart. Before leaving, I thought of Pei Wen in the woodshed, and sent a servant to see if he was still alive. The servant returned and reported that Pei Wen had stopped breathing. His eyes were still open when he died, staring at the woodshed door, as if he were still waiting for something. I only said a faint "bury him" after hearing that, then turned and boarded the ship to Mare Island. Within you, Pei Wen's death was nothing more than the removal of a nuisance to me. Without even a hint of emotion, his entire life was lived in his own obsessions and stupidity. In the end, dying in a foreign land in the Shen family's woodshed was also his destiny. The ship sailed on the sea breeze brushing against my face, carrying a faint salty scent, and you stood at the bow, his posture tall and upright. His long blue hair danced in the wind, and his tail occasionally slapped the seawater, sending up fine sprays of waves. He looked back at me, reached out his hand, and said with a smile, "Master, come here." I walked to his side, and held his hand. He pulled me into his arms, letting me lean against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. "Mare Island is beautiful. I'll take you to see it." He lowered his head, and pressed a gentle kiss on my forehead. "From now on, that will also be our home." I looked up at him, and smiled. "Yes, from now on, Mare Island is our home. And the Shen family is also our home. You and I will be together forever, never to be apart again." The ship sailed for a few days and finally arrived at Mare Island. Mare Island was surrounded by the sea, the island lush with trees and flowers everywhere. The air was filled with a faint scent of flowers and seawater, beautiful as a fairyland. The merfolk people were already waiting on the shore. Seeing in you, they all bowed in salute, calling out, "Your Majesty," and you held my hand and walked onto the shore step by step, receiving the worship of the merfolk tribe. There was majesty in his blue eyes. Yet when he looked at me, they instantly became tender. The coronation was held in the sacred temple of Mare Island. The temple was built on a cliff by the sea, constructed entirely from white jade, glistening in the sunlight. During the ceremony, the high priest of the merfolk placed the crown of the Mare King on Anyu's head. That crown, carved from deep-sea pearls and coral, was dazzling and brilliant. Then, the high priest placed a bracelet, made of merfolk pearls, onto my wrist. He announced, "This is the token of the Mare Queen. From this day forward, Miss Shen is the queen of our merfolk tribe, to rule the merfolk alongside His Majesty, and receive the worship of all our people." The surrounding merfolk tribespeople all bowed, shouting, "Salutations to the queen." I looked at the bracelet on my wrist, then at Anyu beside me, my heart full of mixed emotions. In my last life, I had fought with all my might, just to be Pei Wen's Mare Princess, only to end up dead. In this life, I only wanted to choose a loyal merman for myself, never expecting to become the Mare Queen, and stand at the very peak of the merfolk tribe with Anyu. After the ceremony, Anyu took me all over Mare Island. He took me to see the deep-sea coral reefs, where the corals were multicolored and magnificent under the seawater. He took me to the seashell beach, where shells of all shapes gleamed with rainbow colors under the sun. He took me to the merfolk villages, where the people were simple and kind, and they would all smile sincerely when they saw us. Life on Mare Island was leisurely and pleasant, and you would watch the sunrise and sunset with me, catch the freshest sea fish for me, kick up gentle waves for me with his tail, and whisper sweet words of love in my ear. I also gradually integrated into the merfolk life, learning their customs from the merfolk women, and how to manage their affairs. The merfolk people all liked me very much, saying I was gentle, kind, and capable, a worthy queen. But the peaceful days did not last long. Soon, news came from the Shin family that the Lin family from the neighboring city had joined with several small families intending to annex the Shin family. They also claimed the Shin family relied on the merfolk's power to act tyrannically in the city, provoking public outrage. Father was old and unable to cope, so he could only send someone post-haste to Mare Island to ask Inyu and me to return and take charge. After Inyu and I heard this, we immediately packed our things, ready to return to the Shin family. The high priest of the merfolk was worried about our safety and wanted to send merfolk warriors to accompany us. Inyu waved his hand and said there was no need. The queen and I can solve such a small matter ourselves. His tone was confident, with a cold, sharp light in his eyes. He was now the Mare King, and his power was far beyond what it used to be. A few mere families were not worth mentioning. We took a ship back to the Shin family. Just as we arrived at the city gate, we saw the Lin family people with a crowd of thugs surrounding the Shin family entrance, shouting for father to come out and surrender. The Shin family servants resisted with all their might, but they were no match for the Lin family thugs. They were being beaten until they were bruised and battered, falling to the ground, and you held my hand and walked before the Lin family crowd. A cold light flashed in his blue eyes, and the air pressure around us suddenly dropped. The head of the Lin family was a middle-aged man with a fat head and large ears. Seeing Inyu, a hint of wariness flashed in his eyes, but thinking of his superior numbers, he plucked up his courage. He shouted, "Are you that merman? I advise you to mind your own business. The Shin family's affairs are human affairs. It's not your place as a merman to interfere." And you let out a cold laugh, not saying a word, only lightly lifting his hand. Instantly, a massive tidal wave rose up from the sea. A massive tidal wave rose up from the sea. The wave lunged toward the Lin family crowd, frightening them into a frantic retreat, screaming one after another, "So what if you're a Mare King? You're just a different species." The Lin patriarch shouted with feigned bravado. "Today, I shall act for heaven and destroy the Shin family, along with you." With that, he waved his hand for the thugs to charge. And you protected me behind him, flickered like a shadow, and appeared right in the middle of the thugs. His movements were as fast as lightning, his blue fish tail, tracing an elegant arc through the air. With every swing, several thugs were sent flying, crashing to the ground, unable to get up. In but a moment, the Lin family thugs were utterly defeated, lying on the ground and wailing. The Lin patriarch, seeing the scene before him, was pale with fright, his legs turning to jelly, and he collapsed onto the ground. You dare touch me? My Lin family has the city lord's backing," the Lin patriarch said tremulously, attempting to use the city lord's name to intimidate us. "The city lord?" I stepped forward and looked at the Lin patriarch, a cold smile playing on my lips. "Do you think the city lord would offend the merfolk for you?" Just then, the city lord arrived in a hurry with a troop of soldiers. Seeing the scene before him, his expression changed drastically. He first bowed in salute to Inyu, respectfully calling him Your Majesty. Then he turned to the Lin patriarch and bellowed, "Lin Wanchan, you have some nerve, daring to cause a riot in public, and daring to be disrespectful to the Mare King. You are practically asking for death." The Lin patriarch was dumbfounded, unable to believe the city lord was so respectful. To Inyu, "City lord, you, how can you? He's a merman. The Mare King is the supreme ruler of the merfolk tribe. Even the emperor treats him with respect, and you dared to provoke him, and even wanted to annex the Shin family? I think you're tired of living." The city lord said sternly, "Guards, seize Lin Wanshan and all his associates. Throw them into the dungeon, to await further orders." The soldiers surged forward, tied up the Lin patriarch and his men, and dragged them away. The city lord bowed to Inyu and me again, smiling as he said, "Your Majesty, Your Highness. Regarding today's matter, it was my lack of oversight. I have let you see something embarrassing. Whoever dares to trouble the Shin family in the future shall be my enemy. I will certainly not show them mercy." And you gave a faint nod and said, "No need for formalities. But next time, don't let me see something like this again." Yes, I shall remember." The city lord nodded repeatedly, not daring to be the least bit neglectful. After solving the Lin family problem, the Shin family returned to its former peace. After this incident, the other families in the city never dared to easily provoke the Shin family again, and even came to curry favor. The Shin family's status in the city became even more exalted. Father looked at Inyu and me, saying with gratification, Yang, I'm old now, the Shin family depends on you and Inyu. I believe that under your management, the Shin family will only get better and better." I nodded and said, "Don't worry, father. And you and I will surely protect the Shin family. And protect you. Peace returned to our days, yet this peace was steadier than ever before. And far happier. And you and I would still frequently travel to Mare Island. Sometimes to handle Merfolk business. And other times, simply wanting to see the scenery there. The Merfolk people had long since come to see me as one of their own. Always welcoming me warmly whenever they saw me. And the Shin family flourished under my management. Our business growing larger and larger, becoming one of the leading families in the city. The breeze by the sea is still gentle, carrying a faint scent of seawater, brushing over my cheek, just like an Yu's kiss. Soft and warm. Sunlight spills across the sea, the waves shimmering and sparkling like a scattering of crushed gold. And Yu wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin in the crook of my neck. Master, he whispered softly. The rest of our lives will be long, but I will stay by your side. I leaned into his arms, listening to his steady heartbeat, and replied with a smile, all right. The rest of our lives will be long, and I will stay by your side. Through every journey. And through every passing year. It will be you for the rest of my life.